my name is Lorenzo Escaler, and in this video, I'm going to talk about scuba diving. Now for a quick overview, this video presentation will contain the following. First, what scuba diving is all about. This includes equipment and safety tips or things to remember. Next is how did it pique my interest? And finally, how did it help me understand more about aquatic activities? So, without further ado, let's dive right in. First of all, we have to know that scuba is actually an acronym for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. It is a portable breathing device invented for, you guessed it, scuba diving. Now, what is scuba diving all about? Scuba diving is basically a diving method wherein you use a regulator as your breathing supply and a tank with compressed air so that you can breathe normally underwater. With this, you can explore the water longer and dive deeper. A brief history of scuba diving. It was invented by Jacques Cousteau in 1942 during the German occupation of France. He designed the first successful and safe open-circuit scuba, known as the aqualung. Their system combined an improved demand regulator with high-pressure air tanks and was patented in 1945. So now that we know what scuba diving is, we also have to know what are the basic scuba diving equipment out there. First is the dive mask. It creates the air pocket to have a clearer view of the underwater life. Next, we have the snorkel. It is a breathing tube allowing you to inhale and exhale through your mouth when swimming face down on water surface. After that, we have the regulator. It connects to your tank and delivers air to your mouth when you inhale. Then we have the BCD or buoyancy control device. It is a piece of diving equipment with an inflatable bladder which is worn by divers to establish neutral buoyancy underwater and positive buoyancy at the surface when needed. Next, we have the octopus. It is basically a backup regulator in case of emergencies. It reduces the pressure of the compressed air to an ambient pressure that the diver can safely breathe on. It is usually yellow in color so that it can easily be seen underwater. Now we have the weight belt. It is an equipment simply used to drag you deeper or to counteract buoyancy. After that, we have the scuba tank. It contains pressurized air which allows one to breathe and stay longer underwater. Along with this, we also have fins, an accessory used to aid movement through the water. Scuba or wetsuit, primarily to provide thermal insulation but also buoyancy and protection. And finally, we have the SPG or the submersible pressure gauge, to measure the amount of remaining air pressure in a scuba air tank. Now that we know what scuba diving is and the basic equipment used in it, we also have to keep in mind our safety. Scuba diving might look all fun and exciting, but it also has its share of risks and danger. That is why we also have to know some basic safety tips. I would be giving you 10 safety tips for your scuba diving. Number 1, never hold your breath. Number 2, never dive alone. Number 3, ascend slowly from every dive. Number 4, perform a safety stop 5 to 6 meters on every dive. Number 5, plan your dive and execute that plan. Number 6, know your limits and dive within your own limitations. Number 7, check your air contents gauge regularly. Number 8, always dive with an alternative air source or octopus. Number 9, always perform body checks before your dive. And number 10, only dive if you're fit to dive. Now that we have this vast amount of knowledge about scuba diving and has finally come to this point, You might start to wonder, why did I pick scuba diving in the first place? How did scuba diving pique my interest? Well, simply put, scuba diving allows us humans to do something that we are physically incapable of doing, and that is breathing underwater. Yes, we can do it for a short amount of time, but eventually we have to go back up and get some air. Scuba diving allows us to breathe underwater for as long as we want and dive deep as we can possibly go. In simple terms, it can turn a bipedal land-walking human into an underwater marine swimming creature. And that is how scuba diving piqued my interest. Finally, as the last segment of this video presentation, I still have to answer one last question. How did scuba diving help me understand more about aquatic activities? Well, in simple terms, scuba diving introduced me to a whole new world of underwater activities. It made me realize that the surface we are walking on is just the tip of the iceberg. Below us lies a completely breathtaking scenery, a world underneath the pristine waters, a world that is home for countless of beautiful creatures, a world free of noise and disturbance, a world of peace and serenity, a world of limitless possibilities. Scuba diving, the ticket to paradise.